Desert Radio.
The project where those houses are is a project which has not yet reached practical completion.
I get the feeling someone somewhere is not patient enough.
We are going to occupy those houses. Now, the government has two options here. It's either going to be a peaceful occupation or it's going to be forceful.
Why should I be concerned then? The police have many cases which they are investigating.
We have responded accordingly, and I don't know why. The same newspaper, the Namibian, called me.
Government have availed 142 million for the Independence Stadium as well as other infrastructures that they want to develop.
Desert Radio.
95.3.
The bold voice.
Good day and welcome to the rerun on Desert Radio. I am Kudayatu Kashatenya. This is where we rebroadcast important or just interesting conversations you might have missed on Desert Radio over the past couple of days. For today, we revisit a conversation with social, gender equality and human rights activist Rosa Namises, who announced recently that she will run as an independent candidate for Namibia's presidential elections in November 2024. She joins 3 more women on the ballot this year, making this a historic election for Namibia. Namises, a former Secretary General of Congress of Democrats, COD, and parliamentarian, spoke to John Colin Namene on Breakfast in the Desert this morning, sharing insights on what her presidential campaign promises.
This is Desert Radio.
I remember we broke that news to you about 2 to 3 weeks ago, where social, gender equality and human rights activist Rosa Namises announced recently that she will run as an independent candidate for Namibia's presidential elections in November of 2024. She joins 3 women who are in the running, and her entrance has made this year's election historic, judging by the number of women candidates in the race. Namises, a former Secretary General of the Congress of Democrats, or the COD, and parliamentarian, joins us in the studio this morning to give us an insight on her presidential campaign promises and more. Madam Rosa Namises, to you a very good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning to the listeners as well.
Indeed. We do thank you so much for making some time for us, and I'm glad we have you in studio for this particular discussion. I guess just to start us off perhaps with, and briefly, why you decided to put your hat in the ring to run for the highest office in the land.
In the land. Really, why did I do that? For the years that I have been on the ground, I realized that it is very important that what people are wishing for and what they want to see in their lifetime is to be carried out by committed people. And I realized that over the years, we are failing our people in that commitment. I'm sitting on the bottom and I'm looking up all the time as I'm working in this community of our land. And I see that one time after the other, we are not making changes into their lives. And after a period of thinking, I thought, why don't I maybe come in? Because I have gained the necessary understanding. I have gained, even I was kind of evicted from land. So I think you who feels the pain, who experience the desperation of the community, can you try and be in a better state to make that possible changes? And that's when I thought to challenge myself.
And it's going to be a challenge because you're running as an independent candidate.
Exactly.
Why not go to a party that's established already, giving you a bigger and better chance to get into a position of decision making as opposed to taking the independent candidate route?
Our country has lived under parties for so long and has been governed by political parties. And I think it's also maybe that might be a bottleneck for people to achieve what they need to achieve. I am saying there is limits to the freedom of implementation. And I think as an independent candidate, which is allowed by our constitution, I think they have maybe also seen something deep in there to present us with such opportunities. And I'm just really feeling to be free and present me to the Namibian people so that they can use me to work. Because it's about doing work, it's about making the necessary impact for our lives to be better in the higher office. So as an independent candidate, I really feel we should have an opportunity to be able to speak out and be spoken to by the people. When you are in parties, and of course for me now to go into a party also would mean they have developed rules where you have to start from a bottom to come up there, and it will take another hungry years for Namibians before I am partly given a space. And then there is also too much of a battle between women and men in political parties, where the men has not grown out of their spaces to give really freely to the women the opportunity. So to protect me against those battles, I thought, why not start here? I can later maybe become a party person, but I was a party person, and I think it is not working.
What are your confidence levels, especially with that context you just gave us now? Because like I said, parties are well established already. They have their support base already. So where are your confidence levels sitting going into November 27?
I know that we would be stuck with parties because we were given parties at the very beginning of our political lives in the country. But I don't think that should be. One thing that Namibians shall and will and need to bring out is become really creative with this situation. And my base, I think, as an independent person, you vote an independent person and you can still vote your party. So I feel that as a woman who has been in the lives of many Namibians, they can give an opportunity to this independent woman and then still have their chunk of their choice of their party. So I'm not taking everybody away from their parties, but I'm just saying the independent of me, being the possible president of the land, to stand there and you have the choice to give. So we will have both at the end. You'll have your party voted and you'll have this new trial voted. So I'm thinking that should be a way of moving into a new spirit of the country.
At 7:52, and we're in conversation with Rosa Namises. She has decided, you will remember a few weeks ago now, to take on that mission and vie for presidency later in this year's elections. And we're just speaking to her on why, how, and when all of this will steer her into. You mentioned that opportunity for women. You mentioned that space now for women. As it stands, there will be 4 women that will be vying for presidency. There might be 3, depending on how the Nudo Congress does end up going later this month. But what are your thoughts on that? On women? Well, it's the largest amount of women we've had for as candidates in Namibia ever.
I really want to thank the women movement, the women out there in this country, and other women in the SADC region, and the women in the globe who has started this. And for me, I am saying, for over many decades, you know yourself in the media, you just see lots of men. Our ballot papers has been male-dominated. And for me, therefore, peacefully, without really fear, I am full of confidence that it is time to put the women on the ballot paper. I am happy that the women who started were just 1 and 2. I think it's important for that solidarity to have many women on the ballot paper so that we can see how we can work ourselves through this. It has been happening with men. Why not with us? And I think it's an opportunity for women also to showcase their role and responsibility. I'm happy about Esther some years ago. I'm happy about Meme Pentukeni, and I'm happy about us now being for. I hope we can be for and provide women, other women out there with possible choices. I think our women would, by force, make these choices to just vote men. Now I think it is beautifully crafted and it's beautifully evolving because the need in this country to have a voice that speaks differently around the issues that are affecting us, around our natural resources or our economy, and around social protection is very much needed now. And so I'm not really so much worried about women being on these ballot papers. Even if they can fill the whole ballots, I'll be very happy.
You're known mostly as a social justice activist, as a social activist. You're in the social space, but being a president encompasses every other space.
Absolutely.
What's on your campaign trail? What are you honing on? What are you focusing on?
I think things are not changing. I am very much placed as the social person, as the gender person, and this is for me from where everything else is emanating. The economy comes out of what can you do for the social situation in the country. For the other arts, creativity, culture, it emanates from here. So for me, my campaign would not be a new campaign. It is the call that I had for equality for all of us. It is the campaign that to integrate community members with all their backgrounds. And I think we had been given totally a platform there where we need to talk about inclusivity, to include everybody, especially those people on the periphery, has been long out there. So they are out there for a need of economic emancipation. They are out there for social protection. They are out there to be able to live a dignified life. So for me, I will just strengthen and more provide clarity around the basics that people have been needing. I will also think about how do we, as Namibians, work around international relationships so that this can be actually provided the needed information. It's very much put into some shadow or some secrecy, and it looks like it's a big thing. We cannot talk about it, and therefore when investors come, it should be exclusive until you end up with one person's tender, 1% and 10% for Namibia. It has been many, many years these things has gone into all this secrecy. So for me, I'm also there to open up and talk where we can talk as Namibians and work together. I am not a party, as we said. Therefore, the party is Namibia. So let the Namibians become a party for once in their lives and make these decisions and participate. Women, I specifically would say to them, it is also for them an opportunity time for us to be the number that we are in this country, to address the violence, to address certain things in a more practical and peaceful way. And I know women are life givers and they can really bring out very deep creative strategies. And they are sitting out there. We have not just make use of many women. So I'm saying my campaign would not be a new campaign. It is just to say divert the vote and I will be your voice.
I asked that question in particular because there are new issues on the table now that perhaps do trickle down to the social space, but they have to be dealt with another lens, and those are issues like the green hydrogen, for instance, right? The oil and the oil that's been found on the shores of Luzerne. How especially as a social person do you aspire to tackle those particular issues, especially because there are many questions around it from Namibians?
You see already what is happening. Every time the front is covered by strange agreements, corrupt practices already, And I'm asking myself, why? Why should our resources be tainted by greed, by strange behavior? Whereas for once the country has presented it in its honesty, it lies there to be utilized by all of us, and suddenly when we go there, we become selective. So I will really have to look into our policies. How do we deal with it? How is it that these kind of fines are more dominated by those of the people that we have put responsible? So I think discussions should really open up so that we can see those who have been given the needed education, the needed information, how are they working with that resource? So that this resource, at the end of the day, when it is taken out, is dealt with within the country, benefiting our people, and making sure the working and living relationships with people outside is very peaceful. That kind of small entrance should really happen for us, because I think the oil has been talked about, the gas has been talked about, the diamonds of many, many years. These things, why are they done in the echelons of the power? Why is it not opened for discussion? I was just in Uis. People are dying of thirst, but there is mining companies. They don't run social responsibility. So we need to really address these situations. And they are not comfortable. They are not easy. But they are the economy of the country. So, yeah.
It's a minute past 8 o'clock and we're winding down our conversation with Rosa Namises this morning. And because we're chowing a bit into our sports time, we are speaking to her about her aspirations to, get to that highest office of the presidency. And as I mentioned, we are in our sports hour now. So I want to get onto that front. We saw late and former President Hage Geingob really being a champion of sport, and as mentioned, you're really more of a in the social space of things. But what are your thoughts on the current landscape of sport? There have been many complaints about facilities and players not being paid enough, etc., etc. If you were in that position to lead the country, what are you doing about the current context of sport in the country?
Sports, I have grown. First, let me say, as a president, I don't need to do everything, but I may have opinions around these issues and ask fellow colleagues and fellow Namibians to act upon. I have been growing up as a child of sports, and I don't go for Manchester's and many other stories there. I see Namibians being very excited. I think it's important to network outside, but I am a diehard Black Africa. And what I have seen over the years is, again, being sports roped into corrupt practices. Our man has been leading. I would see this one becomes the CEO, the other one in the sport fraternity. There is so much quarrels and so on. We need to clean. And cleaning does not mean creating enemies and doing what. We need to clean to make sports the spirit of the country, to make sports the thorn where the Bomas, the Frankie Friedrichs' path becomes a real strength for the country. We need to address sports to unite us. And the administration should be a clean, strong administration. I think it's painful when sports people are not paid, for example. You cannot say, I will sit down. Sports, you go and you practice, you teach, you coach, you do those things. And after you have done all that and you have seen people going this way, I'm very saddened. But I heard many grapevine stories around how our girl has been suffering. and her coach. So I think they cannot come and undo coaching. They have gone, they have run, and they need to be paid for what they have done, for example. So in my case, when I come as a president, I think we need to create trustworthy, formidable workers in the administration. We need to get away with personal issues around the sports. We need to get away with selective issues, but bring in the capable people, especially the sport people who are in the administration, those who are the athletes, anywhere. I mean, you find Special Olympics dead in this country. It was a beautiful effort. Why has it died? So we need to really clean ourselves and present our people to the international community and to the national community. I think Namibians are capable out there. It's only how we administer, how we work. And I don't need to run on the independent stadium, but we, as the president, we need to be firm, like our president has been standing. I don't need to create a cup for myself, but I need to create a cup for many Namibians out there so that it can be done in its transparency, in its honesty, in each and every region, because that would help Namibians to further recruit, especially like the Brave Warriors team. That team needs to be worked with.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We do have to let you go now, but I just want to squeeze in one last question. There's been an issue of political funding that's been dominating the headlines over the past couple of days. And briefly, maybe really just in a minute or so. Will you reveal who your funders are? And what do you think about the issue of political funding in the country? Maybe in a minute for me, if you can.
It's a very thorny issue. Some political parties, like our ruling party and parties in parliament, are funded by our state. And I was just wondering, why don't all of us who go for the offices get funded? But of course, that's another day's story. Political party funding, for example, I can already say I'm coming from zero. Some people need to help to get this thing off the ground. If they are there, we should say, I was given money by Desert Radio to sponsor my news airtime. We should reveal. Why can't we? Why can't we tell the nation about who gives us money? I will collect money from the Namibian team, who I say, you are the party. Why don't I say I was given this money? The secrecy around political funding is the one that builds the problem at the end when you are in the office. Therefore, from the very beginning, let us be open. Let us tell Namibians who gives us the money. For example, if it is the Diamond Giants, tell them it was the Diamond Giants, so that helps you also when you are in the corner, that the Diamond Giant says, now I want Skeleton Coast. Then you say Namibians. I told you last time that the Diamond Giants gave us the money. Now they want that diamonds in the Skeleton Coast. And then you talk to the Namibians and they can say, no, this is how we would work. Let us work in openness. It helps sometimes.
Indeed. Well, that concludes our conversation this morning with Rosa Namises. You heard what her aspirations are for that office of the presidency. It's still a long way to go. November 27th, it really is. So there's still a lot of work for her to do, as well as other candidates. And we'll be bringing them on slowly but surely as we lead up to November 27th. But Rosa, for your time this morning, we do thank you so much and all the best with your campaign.
Thank you for bringing me to be the soundboard.
Indeed.
Unfiltered.
Our own state has had great growth in policy and legal reform processes. That has also brought the sodomy law under review within the LRDC, and also that this particular law has reached the parliament.
Current.
If you don't have competencies, the right ways of appointing all these people, except maybe for the minister who's a political appointee. But even then, the minister is not going to breathe down instructions that go contrary to the purpose of the enterprise. price.
Impactful.
That's the whole point of this discussion today, to see if the laws that have been created in this country are actually consistent and compatible with the language of the Constitution itself. And that is the work of the justices.
All in one space. The 40-minute run. Exclusive to Desert Radio.